Clouds hung low over Stormwind, brushing the tips of the city's many towers. A chill wind tugged at the guards' cloaks as they huddled at their posts outside Stormwind Keep, shivering. Inside, their commander, Turalian, and his advisors were still awake, poring over maps in one of the armories in the keep. Now the Alliance command post. The guards had nodded to the beautiful elf who had accompanied their commander, and was currently in the room with other strategists, though anyone with eyes could see the tension between the two. They shivered, but paid no real heed to a particularly cold breeze that wafted through the city, danced in through the keep's gate doors, and then drifted up the wide central hallway and veered up to the left. Up it swirled, through another corridor, and across a small courtyard open to the cloudy night sky. A pair of guards stood to either side of the entrance to the royal library. They shivered as they felt the breeze brush up against them, and squinted as the shadows around them seemed to deepen. Suddenly a stronger wind sprang up, whisking the shadows away and revealing several figures in their stead. 4 of them seemed to be human, at least in size. They all wore heavy hooded cloaks and strange wrappings around limbs and torso, but their eyes glowed a fiery red. The last figure, however, towered over them, and even in the near dark, his skin gleamed green. One of the guards inhaled to cry out in alarm as he drew his sword. He never got the chance. The orc stepped forward, already swinging a massive axe. The guard fell in 2 pieces. His companion was able to raise his shield and block a blow from one of the strange wrapped figures and thrust with his spear. To no avail, another of the intruders caught the spear haft and chopped it in half, then spun and delivered a sweeping blow to the guard's neck just above the shield's edge. The man fell without a sound, his head nearly severed, and the figures stepped over the 2 twitching corpses, pushing the doors open and entering the royal library. "Be quick," Gorfine instructed. "We must not be discovered." His Death Knights nodded, as did Pergath, Throatsplitter, the orc who had so quickly dispatched the first guard. Gorfine had wanted a Bleeding Hollow warrior with him, since they knew this world better than any other Horde member, and Pergath had impressed him as one of the smarter and quieter warriors available. All 5 of them spread out, combing the library for their prize. After several minutes, Pergath cursed. "It's not here," he whispered. "What?" Gorfine joined the warrior next to him, next to an empty glass case. "Are you sure?" In response, Pergath gestured at the case, and at the small tan cards stuck in the corner. Gorfine had access to his host body's memories and skills, and after a second of concentration, he could make out the writing. Book of Medivh. Not to be opened without express permission from the king or from the Alliance commander. It was here, Gorfine mused, studying the case's deep velvet interior, which had clearly been weighed down by something large, heavy, and rectangular. But where is it now? "Over here," one of his Death Knights called softly, and Gorfine hurried toward him. Pergath and the other 2 Death Knights right behind him. "It looks as though someone else was thinking along the same lines we were," the Death Knight pointed at a small reading alcove and the body within it. The corpse wore the armor of an Alliance guard, a dagger hilt protruding from the narrow space between the helm and breastplate. "Alterac," Pergath whispered, staring down at the dead man. That insignia there," Pergath pointed to the markings on the dagger hilt. "That's the Alterac crest." Gorfine's own host memories confirmed it. "So Alterac has the book," he mused. Despite his betrayal during the previous war, Lord Perinold still ruled Alterac, at least for now, and the book was valuable to the Alliance. Alterac could use it as a bargaining chip. Yes, it did make sense. But why leave behind such an obvious clue, he wondered aloud. That's a careless assassin. Perhaps he was sending a message, Pargas suggested, showing the Alliance that Alterac and his king are still in the game. Or, he grinned, his tusks showing, maybe he was just a careless assassin. Well, we shall not be so careless, Gorfine said. We need this book, and so we must go to Alterac. Take the dagger. I'd just as soon the Alliance didn't have the same clue we did. The corpse is fresh. Let the guards think all three were slain by the same hand when they come across them on the morrow. Pargath obediently knelt and tugged free the deadly weapon. To Alterac, then? Yes, but not just yet. We need to keep to our original plan as much as possible. We're still going to Blackrock Mountain. We need Rend, Maim, and the red dragons they control. Pargath nodded. Blackrock is on the way to Alterac, he pointed out. Exactly, Gorfine grinned. And with a red dragon at our disposal, we could be there and back in hours, and still return to the portal ahead of schedule. He nodded. But first we must leave here as quietly as we came. He beckoned them to him. The shadows crept closer, the temperature in the library dropping. A moment later, a chill wind slipped through the doors, past the cooling bodies and the pools of blood around them, back down the corridor and out of the keep, where it quickly escaped into the night. A day later, Gorfine and his band reached Blackrock Mountain. Their small group had grown. He'd contacted Gaz Soul Ripper, and his fellow Death Knight had sent Ferris, Wolf Brother of the Thunderlord clan, Tagar Spinebreaker of the Bone Chewer clan, and several of each's finest warriors. The orcs had met up with the Gorfiend and the others at the base of the mountain range as commanded. Their expanded group was as large a force as Gorfine felt they could assemble without being spotted by the Alliance. He hoped it was large enough to get the attention of the Sons of Blackhand. They climbed openly up the mountain, making sure the orc sentries hidden nearby could see them clearly. Gorfine did not want even the suggestion that they might be attacking or sneaking in. Finally, they reached the top, where rocks had split open and magma flowed through natural channels like glowing red river beneath graceful bridges. A massive stone keep stood against the spire itself, carved from the same glossy black rock which gave this place its name, and Gorfine's lips curled in wry memory. This had been where Doomhammer had established his base, and where the Horde Warchief had introduced Gorfiend and the other Death Knights to the assembled clans. And it was below here, in the valley at the mountain's feet, where Doomhammer had fought the Alliance leader Lothar and won, only to then be bested by Lothar's second, Turalian. Defeat and victories both had their ghosts here. He did not waste much time recollecting. He had the present to think of, and his own advancement. With a gesture, he instructed his group to halt at the entrance. Sure enough, a moment later, 4 armed guards, large and powerful, appeared, looking more eager to strike. We come to speak with the Sons of Blackhand. Tell them Terran Gorfiend has news and a proposal for them. He stepped forward and let the hood fall from his face. The guards paled slightly. One of them whispered something to another. The second orc listened below and disappeared into the darkness. He returned a few moments later. The commander listened, then turned to Gorfiend and his group. Stay close, he warned, and led them into the keep himself. Gorfiend followed as they went ever deeper into the heart of the mountain, his glowing red eyes taking everything in. The keep was clearly in heavy use, and they saw several other orcs marching past here or there. All stopped to study them as they passed, obviously surprised to see a Death Knight here on Blackrock Spire, but none of them dared say anything. Finally, they reached the wide chamber Gorfine remembered as Doomhammer's throne room and war council. The figure who now lounged in the heavy black chair carved from the mountain rock was shorter than Doomhammer, more brutish in appearance, with heavier features and an unkempt mane of brown hair. Metals and bones dangled from his nose, hair, ears, and brow, and his armor was heavily adorned, as was his massive, razor-sharp sword. "Rend," Gorfine said as he stopped just beyond the sword's reach. "Gorfiend," Rend Blackhand, co-chieftain of the Blackrock clan, replied. His ugly face split in a grin that made him look even uglier. He shifted his position, flinging a long leg over the arm of the throne. "Well, well, well, what brings you here, dead man?" "Yeah," came a higher-pitched voice. Gorfine's eyes shifted to where Ren's brother Mame crouched beside and just a little behind the throne, half hidden in the shadows. "You got some nerve coming all the way in to see us." "The dark portal has been restored," Gorfine began, but Ren waved that away with a snort. "I saw it in my dreams," the orc leader replied. "I knew it had to be one of you warlocks causing it." A frown crossed his broad face. "What about it?" Gorfine frowned. This conversation was not going as he'd hoped. "Nerzul leads the Horde now," he said. "I have been sent to bring you back into the fold, you and your Blackrock clan. We need the Dragon Maw clan as well, and the Red Dragons they command." Rend glanced over at Mame, and the two brothers laughed together. "After 2 years where nothing happens, you come marching back up here into my keep, a handful of fresh warriors trotting behind you, and you expect me to get all excited about kneeling before a withered old shaman? And by the way, I should also hand over not only my own warriors, but my dragons as well?" He laughed again, though his eyes blazed with fury. "Not damn likely." "You must," Gorfine insisted. "We need your strength and your dragons to carry out our plan." "I don't care what you need," Rend replied coldly. He rose, and Gorfine realized that despite his childish attitude, Rend Blackhand was very dangerous. "That's your problem, not mine. I don't give a damn about whatever old Nerzul might be planning. Where was he when we fought the Alliance? I was here. Where was he when Doomhammer fell? I was here." "Me too," echoed Mame. "Where was he when the portal was destroyed and we got stuck here?" Ren continued. Where was he when we were hunted for 2 long years and slowly rebuilt our forces with whatever orcs had survived and could make their way to us?" "I'll tell you where. He was safe and snug on Draenor, not lifting a finger to help." Rend snatched up his sword and slammed it down on the throne's arm so hard the stone splintered. Mane jumped, then laughed with an echo of mania in his voice. "But I was here. I pulled these orcs back together, rebuilt the Horde, not over on Draenor, but here on Azeroth, right beneath the Alliance's nose. I am War Chief now, and no used-up old shaman is going to take that away from me." Gorfine longed to smear the boy into a paste, but refrained. "Please," he said through clenched teeth. "Please, I ask you to reconsider. Without your aid, Nerzul will fail," Rend finished bluntly. Mame looked gleeful. "He's got no experience with real war. He's got no head for tactics, no understanding of combat, and no real leadership skills. The Alliance will crush his little pretend horde, and then," he grinned, "I will pick up the pieces. We'll gather all the survivors to us, Mame and I, just as we have been doing all along since the last war ended." Mame crept closer, and Rend let his hand fall on his brother's head as he might a pet dog's. "And with the Horde, the real Horde, even larger, and with the dragons at our side and me in command, We're going to sweep across the face of Azeroth. Rend grinned directly at Gorfiend. And then, Deadman, you'll serve me. Behind Gorfiend, Tagar stiffened. You coward, he howled at Rend. Traitorous dog. I'll cut you down like the cur you are, and take your throne for myself. Then your people will follow my orders and take their place in the Horde once more. Oh yeah, Rend replied lazily. You want to attack me now? His grin widened, and Gorfiend turned to rest a hand on Tagar's shoulder. He has guards nearby, many of them, he warned the Bone Chewer chief quietly. If you attack him, they'll kill you, and then we'll be short one chieftain. He shook his head. Now is not the time. Tagar grumbled but stepped back a pace. Rend looked disappointed. One final time, will you join us? Gorfiend asked Rend softly. Oh wait, let me think. No, Rend retorted, smirking. Mame chuckled. Very well, Gorfiend bowed. Then there is nothing more to say. Rend laughed. Go on, he instructed. I can't wait to get news of your gory destruction. He and his brother laughed again, and the sound echoed through the chamber and into the halls and corridors beyond, as Gorfiend led his dispirited group out of the keep and back down from the spire itself. The sun had already set, and the sky was fading from dusk to true dark. Gorfiend glared at the dancing orange and yellow campfire. Things had not gone according to plan, and he was deep in thought, pondering the next move. The others were wisely silent, and the only sound was the crackle of flames and the occasional soft grunt of quiet conversation. A sudden noise in the darkness made them all leap to their feet, the tensions strung taut as a bow. Human! Kill him! Came the cry from the orcs sent to keep watch. The Death Knights stayed silent, but the orcs roared, happy to have a target for their frustration. Gorfiend could see the human now, wandering boldly up to their very encampment. Tagar charged him, bringing down his club in a blow that would crush the human's fragile skull. What happened next stunned them all. Gorfiend watched as the human reached upward, almost languidly, caught the club, twisted it from the orc's grasp. Tagar gaped at him, then he and the others prepared to lunge again. The human cried, "Hold!" Even Gorfiend doubted he could move against the human. Such was the power in that single word. Who was this man? Gorfiend watched, curious and not a little concerned, as the human entered the ring of firelight. He would be handsome among his people, Gorfiend thought. Tall and well built for a human, with lustrous black hair and strong yet elegant features. Fine clothing draped his frame, and an untouched jeweled sword hung at his side. He grimaced slightly and brushed something from his sleeve. I know you'd like nothing better than to attack me again, but you've sullied my clothing enough for one night. I don't fancy getting your blood on it. He smiled, a slow, dangerous smile that revealed perfect teeth. I'm not quite what I seem, you see. His shadow flickered behind him, then suddenly seemed to rise up, growing monstrous in size and shape, great shadow wings spreading all around them. Who are you? Gorfiend demanded. I've been known by many names, the grin widened. One of them is Deathwing. Deathwing? Gorfiend's mind reeled. He didn't question the statement, but bizarre as it sounded. He'd already felt the faintest hint of Deathwing's power. Gorfiend had heard of the mighty black dragon, perhaps the single most powerful creature on Azeroth. They had seen black dragons a few times during the war, and Gorfiend had always wondered why the Dragonmaw clan hadn't captured them instead of the reluctant red dragons. He had suspected they were either too difficult to target, or that doing so would awaken Deathwing's wrath. Gorfine tried to speak again, but could not. So stunned and horrified was he. He tried again. "What do you want with us?" Deathwing waved a beringed hand airily. "Calm yourself," he replied, slightly contemptuously. "I have not come to slay you, else you would be mere ash already." His eyes glowed from within for an instant, hinting at the vast fires that lurked beneath that human facade. "Quite the contrary. I have been watching you, and I like what I see." He spread a kerchief on a nearby rock, then settled himself beside the fire and motioned for them to do the same. They obeyed slowly. "You have great strength and impressive focus." He grinned at them. "I would very much like to behold the world that gave rise to such a fierce and determined people." Gorfine studied their uninvited guest. Was Deathwing asking to visit Draenor? Why? As if reading his mind, Deathwing turned to meet Gorfine's gaze and nodded. His dark eyes were hooded, the power within banked, and for the moment he seemed merely a self-assured human. "I know of your meeting with the one called Rend Blackhand," Deathwing said softly. "Idiots, he and his brother both, but not without their own power. And I know you desired the red dragons the Dragonmaw clan has." The corners of his mouth turned up. "Standard beasts, in my opinion. I don't know why you're bothering with them." Gorfine wasn't sure how to respond. "Dragons are powerful beings, he began cautiously. "Indeed we are. You wish for allies? Then I have an offer for you. My mighty children shall lend you their aid, and willingly, rather than under duress." One of the orcs, obviously anxious to please the unexpected guest, hesitantly offered Deathwing a mug of ale. The great creature frowned terribly, glancing at the orc. "Take that putrid stuff away." Cowed, the orc retreated. Deathwing composed himself, turning his banked fire eyes to Gorfine. "Where was I? Oh yes. I will lend you the aid of all my children. In return, I demand safe passage through the dark portal, and aid in transporting some cargo through there as well." "You want to go to Draenor?" Tagar burst out. "Why?" The smile Deathwing turned upon the Bone Chewer chieftain froze any further interruptions in the orc's throat. "My plans are my own, orc," the dragon man said quietly, his voice almost a hiss. "But don't worry, it will not hinder your own plotting." Gorfine considered the offer. He needed dragons, whatever their color, for their plan to work. If he accepted the bargain, he would not need to deal with Rend again after all, though he might send some humility into the self-styled war chief later if he had the chance. He didn't know what Deathwing was up to, but as long as it didn't interrupt their own plans, he didn't see a problem with granting the dragon's request. "Very well, Deathwing," he said finally. "Lord Deathwing." He smiled without humor, and there was an edge to his voice. "Let's observe the priorities, shall we?" Gorfine inclined his head. "Of course, Lord Deathwing, I agree. We will give your people and cargo safe passage. But first I have a mission to accomplish in the north. I need to retrieve some cargo of my own." "Very well," Deathwing agreed. He rose gracefully to his feet. "I will speak to my children and inform them of this bargain. When I return, I shall help expedite this task of yours." He dusted his hands off, although he had touched nothing, and without another word, he strode into the shadows. "Right," Gorfine said after a moment. when he was sure the dragon was gone and not about to leap at them from the darkness. Let's pack up. We need to get moving, and we don't have much time. The others hastened to obey, all of them clearly happy to focus their attention upon breaking camp rather than on the strange figure who had just allied himself with them. Gorfine just hoped Deathwing really was an ally. If he proved otherwise, there was nothing they could do to stop him. Two figures, male and female, turned at Deathwing's approach as they waited. Not far from the orcs' encampment, the man was powerfully made and wore a short dark beard and neat mustache, while the woman was petite and had pale skin and long flowing straight hair. Both had glossy black hair and features similar to those Deathwing sported in his human guise. "What news, father?" the woman asked, her voice like silk over iron. "They have agreed, as I knew they would." "Onyxia," Deathwing replied. He stroked his daughter's cheek as she leaned her face into his hand, smiling up at him. "Soon we shall have 2 worlds at our disposal instead of 1. He kissed her pale brow, then turned to her brother. "I have another task for you while I am gone." "Name it, father," the man replied, "and it shall be done." Deathwing smiled. There are still orcs within Blackrock Spire. They have severed ties with their kin and refuse to join the Horde. That leaves them ripe for the plucking. His smile widened as he reached out to clasp his son by the shoulder. "When I return, Nefarian, I want this rend black hand. You two will take control of the mountain and the orcs living in it. They will become our servants." Nefarian grinned, his expression a mirror of his father's. "Little could be easier. We'll have the orcs and their mountain fortress waiting for you," he promised. "Excellent," Deathwing regarded his children for a moment and nodded. "Now I must return to our new allies and aid them in their little tasks, that they may the more quickly turn to mine." As their father returned the way he had come, Onyxia bared her teeth in a feral smile. "Well, brother, shall we go see to our new home and our new subjects?" "Indeed we shall, sister," Nefarian replied with a laugh. "Good sport ahead, I think." He offered his arm, which she accepted, curling delicate pale fingers around his powerful bicep, and together they vanished into the shadows. A heartbeat later, the sound of great wings flapping overhead blended into the evening breeze.